You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in.
Are you guys in the same building right now?
No, we're not even in the same state.
Demetrius, our on-site video person, he was like, look, you guys got to do something different with those blue backgrounds. Like, it's cool, but like the blue just looks plain. So went online and found these backdrops, and I was like, yo, this one looks like a wood panel. Like we're in like a co-working spot, man. We got to go with it. Yeah. So like I always do, I was like, fuck it. I just ordered it. Right. I just sent it straight to Rick's house. He's like, damn, this fucking thing is huge. I mean, it's gigantic.
Can't fit in my sound booth. But the upside to this is that I've notoriously been known for wearing blue shirts with the blue background, so it just looked like a floating head on the screen. He's like, it's bad enough that you show up to the show looking like a Smurf. Now you're just sitting there floating.
So on the flip side, it's white brick. Mm-hmm. And I was looking fly in it. So then when we hopped on for the first time one night just to test it out, he had his on the brown and I flipped mine on the brown. And I said, hey, Rick, why is yours on the brown and not on the white brick? And what'd you say, Rick? What'd you say? Tell him.
I said I'm already white enough.
He was just blending right. He was blending right into it.
I was just perfectly pasty, and I was okay with that. But he wasn't. He was too much white. Welcome back, everybody, to Remotely One. I'm your host, Rick Haney, joined by my esteemed colleague, Kaleem Clarkson. What's up, dude?
Rick, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling fresh.
But you're looking better today. You got powder on?
I properly powdered. I did not moisturize. I powdered.
You have no blemishes. You look great, man. You look great. Thanks. Well, thanks for just being who you are, bro. Thanks.
I'm feeling a little blushy. I'm getting verklempt. I'm so flattered.
I mean, your shirt's not wrinkled or nothing. I mean, you're on point. I mean,
I got rid of the bacon collar, dude. I got rid of it. I had to upgrade.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I'm going to address the audience real quick. Since you all know how to find us, do us a huge favor. Go to ratethispodcast.com/remotely one and leave us a review. That's all we ask. ratethispodcast.com/remotely one. If you could do that for us, that would be amazing. We'd appreciate it.
Thankful.
Since 2015, Remotely One is one of the largest communities of remote work professionals with over 2,500 Slack members and over 4,000 email subscribers. Those are big numbers.
Big numbers.
We're getting there, son. It's free to join. So go check it out at remotely1.com. And with that out of the way, Kaleem, give us a tease or two about our guest today.
We are crushing the guest lately, man. Let me tell you about today's guest, okay? So he grew up in my brother's favorite town because he is a Kansas City Chiefs fan, diehard. So he grew up in Kansas City, all right? Okay. Oh, he went to the University of Tulsa and is now a resident, a Tulsan, they say. Tulsan, that's right. Guest, did I get that right, guest? Tulsan?
You nailed it, man. Yeah, you nailed it. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, yes. He's legit. You know, a lot of people may not know this, but my first passion was charity and nonprofit work as well, Rick. I used to love that stuff and still do. Our guest today, though, he helped start Teach for America in the Tulsa region. So he just started it. No big deal. Helped start it. While he was doing that, going to college, a little bit after college, he was also, Rick, a fellow band member. He was in a band called Known as Tycoons.
Oh my God, I love that band name.
It's a great name. It's a great name.
It is
At first, I
fantastic.
thought he said known as raccoons, but known as tycoons is way better. And they had a song and a movie, and bro is still cashing those royalty checks. He's still
Oh my
cashing
gosh.
them. He's still
Rubbing
cashing
elbows
them.
with celebrities now, son.
Oh my gosh. Who are we, Rick? Who are we?
Oh, we're getting somewhere.
He was also the senior executive director at Reading Partners. He is also part of a power couple. He and his wife are entrepreneurs, and they have some fitness companies in Tulsa. He is a speaker. He has spoken at Collision Web Summit, just a tiny little web conference. By the way, it's pretty big if you haven't heard of it. And this conference, this tiny little event that you might have heard of called South by Southwest. That's right. That's
Nuh-uh.
right. Yeah, that's actually where we
My
got
goodness.
a chance to meet in person. That was pretty cool.
That's huge.
Last but not least, he's currently the managing director of Tulsa Remote, which was named most innovative company by Fast Company magazine. Listeners and viewers, please give a warm welcome to Justin Harlan. Let's go.
Hey, all right.
Let's go. Let's go.
Man,
Tycoon!
Woo! Woo!
I've been introduced a lot of times, but that is by far the best introduction I've ever gotten.
Oh, that's how we roll, baby.
I need you to just intro me for team meetings, one-on-one check-ins. You know, that's how I want to walk into every room from now on out.
You got to carry Kaleem around in your pocket from now on.
That would be amazing
Exactly.
if the next team meeting, all of a sudden, you'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, I just come out of nowhere. I just come out
Yeah,
of
I'm
nowhere.
picturing
do
like
it.
a one-on-one meeting, like a one-on-one Zoom meeting. And I've got my camera off. You do that, and then I just turn my camera on, and there I am. That's what we need.
Hey, let's speak this into existence. Let's make it happen. I'll do it.
We got to will it to
Oh,
happen,
that's good.
brother.
It's great to be here with you guys. Yeah,
That's
it's great to be here.
fantastic.
You, man. Really appreciate you, man.
Thanks for coming on, Justin. You know, it seems to me that you've made a hell of a career in Tulsa, but obviously you went to school there too. What was it about Tulsa that made you stick around after graduating from college?
Man, there's a lot of really special things happening right now, and I kind of got a sense when I was in college that we were on the precipice of, you know, something big. There's an amazing philanthropist in town named George Kaiser, and Tulsa Remote is funded, and I know we're going to get into Tulsa Remote, but the program is funded by the George Kaiser Family Foundation. And I was just lucky enough to be in the city as a lot of his placemaking investments were really starting. When I started at TU, there was really no reason to go downtown, pretty much just kind of a corporate world, couple lunch spots. But you started to see little things pop up that you knew were just going to attract crowds. BOK Center that brings in a lot of performing arts, has some minor league sports teams that play in it. They moved the baseball field downtown that has a minor league team that plays at it, soccer. So you could just kind of see the makings of what was coming. So that was one. And then the other is I met an amazing person who I'm now married to, and she was really a big reason I stuck around too.
There it is.
She's a lifelong Tulsan. Yeah. So, but really, it's just been super cool to watch the city grow up over the last couple of decades. And I know we're going to talk a lot about that during today's podcast, but it's been really cool to be a part of it.
So before you jump into Tulsa Remote, because we have tons of questions about that, I just wanted to say I was so excited to meet you at South by Southwest. It was kind of like this last minute thing. We both got kind of pulled into this panel in the last minute. And, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, Justin, number one, we got to get you on this podcast. We got to get you on this show because what you guys are doing is exactly what we're talking about. But I didn't know about the band thing, man. So let's talk about the band real quick.
This is where the show
Go
derails.
ahead.
Yeah. What is known as Tycoons? What type of music was it? And what did you do? Were you the guitar player? What was your role, man?
Yeah, primarily I played the cowbell, but yeah, we. No,
I got a fever.
We were basically a cover band. I mean, we were good. We were playing like 5 nights a week at our peak, and it was a great way to take my creative energy and kind of put it to use. I played guitar and I sang. I mean, I came to school at TU to actually as a vocal performance major, and then pretty shortly after being here, about a year in, I learned, you know, I faced the reality that I probably wasn't going to make a career out of that. So I switched the tracks a little bit, but it was a cool way to kind of bring that creative energy and just a real passion of mine is music, and to be able to bring that to life for a little bit was great. It was a lot of fun.
That's super cool, man. Maybe we should create a remote work band, bro.
Well, we need a TV theme song. We need a new theme song for the podcast.
It's true. Rick plays drums.
Perfect.
I kind of can play guitar with power chords, maybe. But yeah, good stuff.
So, Justin, how long into the process were you when you discovered remote work? Was this something that was there all along, or did it happen to you gradually?
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned Teach for America and you mentioned Reading Partners. Those are big national organizations that have regions all over the country, but also have a national hub. So I've always kind of been remote working in the sense that you were consistently having meetings with folks at the national headquarters, and that was via Zoom. But then a lot of your work on the ground locally was done in an office with people right beside you. And obviously then in 2020, everything was, completely changed. I would say that I really didn't experience the true remote work, I would say, until I don't even count 2020 as true remote work, because I think everybody was figuring out what the hell we were doing. But in 2021, I think as things started to kind of get a little bit more solidified and people started to figure out and realize that this is something that is really positive in a lot of ways that could bring not only the best out of people in terms of life-work balance, but also to have access to people all over the world to do the job as best as you can. I mean, I think that's really when I started figuring it out. So I've had an interesting relationship with remote work over the years, but I wouldn't say I fully arrived until COVID, until we all kind of experienced that together.
Sure. What would you say was the spark that kind of led to Tulsa Remote?
Yeah. So Tulsa Remote was founded back in 2019, actually before COVID. And really, we were placing a bet on a couple of different things. First and foremost, we believed that people often need a little bit of an incentive to give Tulsa a chance. And we've seen that time and time again through programs like Teach for America, for example, where people are making a 2-year commitment to teach in Tulsa. But then obviously you're working hard throughout their 2-year commitment to keep them around and get them planted in the community and have deep roots. So I saw that firsthand at Teach for America, where it was like, oh, we're often the least preferred region in the country of where people actually want to be. But then even when people are placed here, you could say against their will, it had some of the highest retention rates in the country. And so there's this special sauce about Tulsa that's often difficult to understand until you're actually here. And there was this premise of Tulsa Remote that's like, if we just pulled people in, we're really betting on the fact that they're going to stick around once they see it for themselves and experience what's going on here. So there was some of that. And then, a lot of it has to do with just the economic development approach. At the time, most remote workers were knowledge economy workers. We're in the tech industry. And Tulsa is a city that's been built on oil and gas. And even in the best of times for oil and gas, it's a roller coaster. So, we also know and believe in our building strategies to attract more knowledge economy workers to the city. And at the time that, remote work was kind of this thing that nobody really completely understood when we launched this idea or premise, but we knew that the majority of the people that were working remotely were knowledge workers. And so by attracting knowledge workers through incentive, we were banking on the fact that those knowledge workers would stick around and be able to help build our economy, but also contribute to the community in really positive ways.
Yeah. So economic development by remote work. It's interesting. The panel we were on was something similar around that. So who conceptualized the idea? So did you start, just to kind of clarify the timeline, in 2019, did you start at the very beginning of Tulsa Remote, or did you come on after it kind of been started? And could you just tell for our listeners and viewers, I guess, number one, who came up with the concept, and what is Tulsa Remote? What is it that you actually do?
Yeah, I did not create the concept and was not there when it started. I was there when it grew like crazy, which we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it was really a collaborative effort with a number of people at the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Obviously, there was some leadership before me that was really leading the charge. But Tulsa Remote, in a nutshell, we pay people who have full-time remote jobs that do not live in Oklahoma and have not lived in Oklahoma for at least a year to move to Tulsa and do your remote job from Tulsa for 12 months. That's all you're committing to us. And in exchange, we'll give you $10,000 cash. We'll give you access to a co-working space for 36 months. And I'd say the biggest perk is the fact that we do 10 to 15 events every month that really bring people together. I mean, we often kind of have this, you guys know this isn't true, but there's often a misconception around remote work that it's this isolating thing. You know, you're alone in your house in your pajamas with a dress shirt on and, you know, trying to work. And it's not like that. And I think we're trying to flip it on its head that you can create community and relationships outside of the workplace. And so by having a network and community of 2,300 remote workers here, there's a lot of unique things that can happen, whether that's social in nature, professional development, volunteering. We're constantly bringing people together to build that community in an effort to also integrate people into the Tulsa community so that, you know, they're putting roots here that keep them around for a long time.
I find it fascinating. I mean, Kaleem and I both grew up in a small town, and the idea that people who don't belong to a certain place would come to our hometown, and I'm just using Bangor, Maine as an example.
Shout out Bangor, 207.
Yo.
Are they Bangorians?
It is Bangorians. Well done, sir. Well done.
Good call.
Okay.
Call.
Nice. It's not Bangor either. We've covered that before, but well done, sir.
Right. But in regard to the whole, economic development, Bangor has long since struggled with how to attract people. And honestly, I don't think a lot of civic leaders and civic planners at the municipal level, small towns, I don't think that they saw something like this coming. And I think what you guys are doing is absolutely phenomenal. I'm just wondering, is there some sort of application process, and how do you get those people, how do you attract those people?
Oh, yeah, and how many? How many have you got?
Yeah, there's got to be tons of them.
Yeah, there is a very thorough application and interview process. So, through that application process, we're really just kind of vetting your eligibility, but we're also asking about why is it that you want to be here? We're really not just looking for anybody. We're looking for folks that are contributing to the economy, but also going to contribute to the community in meaningful ways and have a track record of doing that. We have had over 70,000 applications to date.
What?
Whoa,
hang on. Did you say 70,000 people have applied to this program to get straight cash, homie? To come to Oklahoma? Wow.
I want some of that Oklahoma cash.
I do too. Oklahoma cash. I'm sorry to derail you. Do you all hear that? 70,000 people over 4 years?
4 years. Yeah, we're coming up on 5 years this fall. Yeah.
That is amazing.
I think you're onto something here.
Just a tad.
There was an interest. Yeah. So of those 70,000, we've moved 2,300 people to the city. We see about 90% of those people stick around after that year-long commitment that they make. And then the super cool part is, like, even when we go back to 2019, which is when people started to come, there's still roughly 80% of people that are still here today. And then at this point, we've really broken this down into a clean system where people are coming every 2 weeks. I mean, we do an orientation every couple of weeks. It's a rolling basis on that application. You should hear back from us really soon after you applied to let you know whether you're qualified or not. And it's amazing that the way that the word has spread through earned media, being really the first program like this. And by the way, there's 70 programs like this across the country now. To be one of the first, that got a lot of headlines. A city paying you $10,000 to move there was really unheard of at the time. So there was a lot of really free big media. And now there's another kind of wave that's coming through about how is it going, and hearing the member stories and these really cool people that have moved from the coast and found, home. And I think in a lot of ways, our story really taps into what is beautiful about remote work and that ability to choose, that ability to put life before work, and the ability to make connections and community outside of the workplace. I mean, there's so many cool things to tap into just as it relates to, like, the workforce and the way that our program, I think, really pulls out what is beautiful and applicable across all companies and industries.
Just offering the money, jokes aside, 10,000 can definitely help, because, I mean, relocation costs, if you have worked for any company, a lot of times they give you between $5,000 and $8,000 to relocate. So it is helpful to help you do that. But it sounds like, to me, when you're reviewing these, 70,000 applications, someone do my math. How many is that between five years? I don't know the math, but there must be something in addition. Obviously, the co-working space connection for 36 months. That is a great value, a huge value there. Being able to go to these meetups that you are putting together so that you're building a sense of community, of remote community, but local. So what are some of the reasons that you recall? I mean, obviously some of it's probably confidential, but is there anything that kind of sticks out when you're reviewing an application and you're talking about someone who's shown their ability to contribute back to the community? What were some of the, I don't know, memorable moments that or stories that you heard from these applicants to help you make that decision?
I think a lot of it, there's a couple of different through lines that I think we see popping up often. We typically kind of see people that are excited about what the city has to offer in Tulsa, the quality of life that you can get, but for a much lower cost of living. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that LA and San Francisco and New York and Austin are some of the biggest cities that, are feeding into this program. The remote work environment obviously allows you to get the best of both worlds, where you can do your job, but also prioritize place and kind of pick and choose what matters most to you in place. And I think just at a very basic level, Tulsa has a lot to offer right now for people without costing a ton of money. And we'd really love to keep it that way. So that's one. I think there's also this subset of people that are experiencing some sort of life change and maybe just looking to hit the reset button. Maybe they just went through a divorce, or they had a loss of a loved one, and maybe they're, had a friend move away and they're feeling a little bit lost. And this provides a natural place to just kind of start over and meet other people that are doing the same thing as you on maybe what feels like a very non-committal adventure for a year. And then you fall in love with the place and stick around. And then the last thing I'd point out, I don't know how much you guys know about Tulsa's history. It certainly has been in the news a lot more over the last couple of years. And I think on the whole, that's a good thing, because as a city, we've also begun to confront our terrible history, especially as it relates to the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921. And it is amazing to me the number of people that reference that as a point of inspiration and a point of hope and something that they want to be a part of as we work to rebuild what once was the epicenter of Black wealth in our country, the epicenter of Black entrepreneurship. And there's so many exciting things happening across the city, especially in that space, especially in investing in underrepresented entrepreneurs, about bringing that vibrancy and life back to Black Wall Street and Greenwood. And I think people notice that, recognize it, and say, I want to be a part of that. That's also a really consistent thing that we see in our applications.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit more to the diversity of the program? I mean, what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we see it's a little bit more diverse than the city of Tulsa. About 60% of our members are white, 40% are people of color. We're about half and half in terms of gender, 35 average age, $100,000 average salary. So these are typically people that are well into their career. Oftentimes people kind of imagine a person that would move across the country is like this young single person who's just like, whatever, I can do whatever in my life right now. And that's not the type of person that we are typically attracting. In the midst of 7,300, we've certainly had, people that are in their first job, but we've also had people that are nearing retirement. So it really runs the gamut in terms of age and industry. About half of our folks are working in those tech industries. And then we see that for every 2 people that come through Tulsa Remote as a Tulsa Remote member, or somebody that's getting that $10,000, there's typically one other person that makes the journey as well. So whether that's spouse or family member or partner or child, the multiplier effect is something that I think we really underestimated, but is proven to be super powerful in terms of that talent attraction, and then those people creating local jobs as well.
So do you folks have like a formula that you follow to kind of measure and calculate what the numbers are as far as economic development? Like, how are you able to measure how this program is actually affecting your community financially?
Yeah, we worked with the Economic Innovation Group last summer and found that at that time there was about $60 million that had been added to this is 2 summers ago. I mean, time's flying, but summer of 2021, at that time there was about $60 million that had been added to the economy and local labor. That's where we found out some statistics about our retention and the multiplier effect. And then that report estimated that by 2025, if we continue at our current pace, we would have added over $500 million in local earnings to the economy. So yeah, we know that just by bringing in people that make a good salary, that are good people, that are sticking around, the spending power is really big, and those local businesses are going to be supported in addition to, obviously the basic tax that's also being supported through just somebody else being here. So we have no doubts that it's really playing out in a really positive way for local folks as it relates to the economy and community.
Wonderful.
I love how he just casually threw out the Patrick Mahomes
$500 million.
money. Yeah, he just threw out $500 million. He just threw out the Patrick Mahomes money.
Yeah.
He's just like, by 2025, just generate, Patrick Mahomes, $500 million, no big deal. So
yeah, it is kind of funny to think about the fact that Kansas City, we've worked for 5 years. Kansas City did it with one guy.
Yeah.
So your program is unique because it was funded through a foundation. Are there any other programs in the country that you know of that have kind of reached out to you for advice that are kind of looking at your model, but maybe they're funded just a little bit differently? Or do you feel like for these types of programs to really flourish, you do need some private investment or nonprofit investment from donors? Can programs like this just be 100% government funded?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in there. So yes, the answer is yes. We talk to people every couple of weeks. I'd say I talk to somebody who sees our program, recognizes it, is kind of curious. How do I replicate this? Or how'd you guys do this? And probably the coolest part, and maybe most surprising part about the job for me, is those people are actually coming from all over the world. I mean, there's programs in Europe. I've talked to somebody from Canada last week. I mean, this is really catching on. I think people are taking notice and seeing the successes. Everybody has their kind of different spin, and whether it's government funded or privately funded, even just the way in which people, have targeted a specific area of focus. For example, Choose Topeka is a program that unabashedly says they essentially copied what we're doing and is doing it in Topeka, but they're not always focused on remote jobs. They've also recognized there's a lot of people in Topeka that work there because it's, the capital of the state, but they live somewhere else, and they're trying to get those people to live in Topeka. So there's an incentive base there. Tucson is really focused on those Startup Tucson's another great program. West Virginia is another one, Ascend West Virginia, that rotates communities throughout each cohort is in kind of a different community across the state. But to answer your question about philanthropy, I do think it's possible. But what I tell all those people is we would not be nearly as big today if we did not have the private dollars. I mean, to not have to jump through the government hoops and, to kind of go through that red tape is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be innovative and nimble. And when COVID happened and we saw that opportunity for substantial growth with the program, we were able to take advantage of it. And the resources that are, made available to us at the foundation make that possible. It's allowed us to grow our team from 5 when I started in 2021 to about 30 full-time staff members today, supporting people as they come in and really creating that experience that we want for people as they move across the country. So there's no doubt that the private money makes it easier and makes it much easier to scale, but I don't think that means it's impossible through other metrics.
So before the pandemic, or kind of during the pandemic, Tulsa Remote, which is trying to attract remote workers to Tulsa, you weren't 100% operating remotely, which I do find kind of comical. So to me, that's kind of funny. So now that, the pandemic's happened, and it kind of sounded like you're a lot more remote, of course, how has that changed operations for you personally? And has that changed any of the outlook of the program and what it is that you're doing now that you all are feeling that experience?
Yeah, well, just to be clear, because you're going to try to throw my program under the bus here, Kaleem, live on the air. We have a really great policy that allows for our employees to choose. And really, I believe, and I think you do too, that that's the most important thing. I personally don't believe that everybody should be able to work remotely. And, it's not for everybody. There's people that will acknowledge firsthand, when I'm at home, I'm distracted by laundry, or I'm distracted by the dishes, or I'm distracted by Netflix. And it's best for me to be productive if I can come into the office. For me, I'm quite opposite. When I come into the office, I see people I want to talk to. I'm very social. I get distracted. When I'm at home, I'm focused. I'm on the computer, and quite honestly, I really don't want to sit in a phone booth all day at the office either, because I'm on Zooms all day for the most part. So I think that allowing that employee choice and making the conversations that we're having with employees about work and the output and what you're actually doing, as opposed to when you're doing it, where you're doing it, or how you're doing it, I think that is one of the things that is often lost in this remote work conversation, where we talk about, are the offices going to go away, or is the remote work here to stay? I mean, at the end of the day, let's center the conversation about outputs and lifting up people to live the life that they want to while producing the outputs that they were hired to produce. And that to me is where remote work shines. And we have an office that we share with other organizations that are focused on economic development within the George Kaiser Family Foundation world. So there's also a lot of beauty and power to be able to come in and collaborate with them and kind of bump shoulders. And when we've got shared meetings or shared KPIs that we're working towards, that collaboration can help a lot. Or we've got visitors that we're hosting. It kind of gives everybody a nice hub to sit down in. But the majority of my time, I'm at home working. And to have that choice, I recognize is not something that everybody can do, but I think is one of the most beautiful things about remote work that's kind of lost in this office conversation.
Yeah, you're totally right. Choice it is, man. And the other thing too, what I love that you said, it's like, it's not for every person, and every role in every organization isn't set up for remote. Now, obviously you guys were going into the office before, and you're, marketing to remote employees and stuff like that. But every role in even a knowledge worker organization, if you have an office and you have an administrative assistant that is there greeting people, yeah, I totally get it. But you're right. It's all about choice. And that's where I think the true hybrid model comes into play. I kind of feel like the hybrid model has kind of gotten muddy over the past 2 years. And I think the way you just explain it about choice is, it's great, and it's right on point. So,
and I think the hybrid model is something that, for me, you've got to also consider the dynamics in a hybrid model that do not make it more advantageous for the people that are in the office versus those that say remote work is actually best for me and I'm going to work at home, which might mean I miss out on the talk that happens over lunch, or the talk that happens when I'm leaning over your shoulder at a computer, or the happy hour that happens after work. And I think being aware of that and creating policies and structures that protect those working remotely from not missing out on opportunities for advancement, for all the things that we know exist in a workplace. How is that experience, whether you're choosing to come into the office or you're choosing to work at home, how do you ensure that that experience is equitable from an employee standpoint, and it feels like you've got the same shot regardless of whether you're choosing home or office?
Interesting.
I like both. I like retreats. Anytime I can get together and hug somebody, and I just want to do it when I feel like.
I like it where there's an open bar.
I mean,
you'd be a great Tulsa Remote member.
Yeah. I'll take
there he
Schlitzes.
goes. See, I wasn't throwing y'all under the bus. He's back to the bar. He forgot to mention that. He's like, well, we have a really awesome bar, and I love it. I love it. And it has non-alcoholic drinks as well. People, settle down.
Oh,
has non-alcoholic drinks
absolutely.
as well. Yep. So, where do you think this is going, Justin? I'm just going to throw the big future of work on you. Is everyone going back to the office?
I think it'd be silly to think that. I mean, I think we've uncovered a lot that is good in this. I think we're really kind of stabilizing right here. I think it's 12% of people that are working remotely in some form or fashion right now. I think this is probably where we are to stay. It's obviously impossible to predict, but we've realized over the last couple of years that work can be done in this environment. And so now we as employees, and I'm one of those, I told you guys, I've had a little bit of remote work throughout my career, but really the majority of it has happened over the last 3. Now that we know that you can put life before work and you can be flexible and work at night if you want to, or early morning if you want to and get work done from wherever. I mean, there's obviously a lot of jobs that this does not apply to. But for the most part, jobs, we've proven that a lot of jobs can be done in flexible work environments while we're also getting really great things out of life that are probably more important to us than work. So like, why would we give that up? Why would we completely abandon all these great things that we've learned about work productivity, employee relationships, employee benefits? So to me, there's going to be, now that employees have kind of tasted the beauty of that life-work balance, I think it's going to be really hard to completely go back to where we were. And I think we're really starting to see it kind of stabilize where it is today, which I think is a good thing. I think there's a lot of really important conversations that we have yet to have about, those good components of remote work that I just mentioned that I would love to see applied across organizations more holistically. But for the most part, I think this is an important conversation that's really just beginning in a lot of ways. And I'm hopeful for the future.
Yeah, one thing I kind of wanted to comment on that is a lot of the news articles right now and a lot of the press you're hearing about is coming from very large organizations, large corporate organizations that, have a huge PR team and are able to get in the news all the time. But you're not really hearing like some nonprofits, not to Make-A-Wish, for example, they decided to go remote first. When you're in a nonprofit organization and, you have to apply for grants and you're looking to cut costs, it's a really great option. And I think in certain sectors, you're going to see it. It's actually something that I didn't really think about until, I was able to speak with Make-A-Wish. I totally, as a nonprofit person who went to college for social entrepreneurship, I totally just forgot my roots, bro. I forgot like, oh snap. Yeah. I forget every penny that we're looking to put it back into programs and reduce administrative costs. And a lot of these NPOs or NGOs are starting to recognize that and are moving to this. So I 100% agree that, yeah, we're seeing some of the statistics, but I'm not quite sure, we're quite there yet. And I actually think that the numbers are actually a little higher than what's being reported. And definitely, when you look at job applicants, it's still not even close. When you look at jobs on LinkedIn, still, there may be way less remote jobs, but when you click on a fully remote job, there's 3 times the applicants. So, the desire is there. It's just how long it will take for organizations to kind of mature into that, I think.
Well, and that's going to be the biggest thing that I think will dictate future movement. If fully remote jobs continue to attract the top talent, we will see more and more fully remote jobs. Bottom line, if, top talent gives up on that, as a perk that they're looking for and starts to be comfortable going back to the office, then I think, that's going to be enough for organizations to follow suit. So I really believe it's up to the employees to kind of dictate the move from here. And to me, those folks that are requiring people to come back to the office, they're also risking losing really talented folks in that process because there's plenty of options out there and place does not matter as much as it used to. And I think Tulsa Remote is a really great, beacon of that, evidence.
Well put. Absolutely well put. So Justin, before we close the door on this show, I'm dying to know, what is a comical or inspiring moment that you can share with us about remote work since you started?
Well, this one's going to mean a lot to you guys because it's a former neighbor of yours that is at the heart of this story. Yeah. You might have heard of him. His name is Stephen King. And
Coach King.
Coach King. How you doing, Coach? I'm going to swing on 3 balls. I don't care, Coach.
This is really the story that made me realize the power of remote work. So you read in my bio that I used to work at Reading Partners. And in the midst of COVID, obviously nonprofit raising money, we had about a $3.5 million a year budget, and primary role of an executive director is to raise that money. And when you're in COVID, I mean, everybody essentially shifted to this really cool online, got creative, and now it opens the doors for everybody from across the country to be able to join, as opposed to, just folks in Tulsa. And it just so happened that my grandfather retired in Florida, and right down the road is Stephen King. And they've, become friends and play tennis together and all this sort of stuff. And I just decided, why not ask, And he asked Stephen King if he would be the guest speaker on our fundraiser. Virtual, it was all pre-recorded. And lo and behold, he said yes. Great representation of your hometown. because he gave up his time. He said, I'll do an hour interview with you via Zoom. And I chopped it up to where it looked like kids were asking him questions about where he got his inspiration to write and where he became completely morbid in the way that he writes, and, all the good stuff that people want to know. And it was a beautiful thing. And I think it made me really realize, like, this is a completely different environment. The possibilities here are completely different than what we have come accustomed to. And, the fact that within a week we could get Stephen King on a Zoom call and record it and then put it out and raise a bunch of money because he's willing to give it his time and energy. I mean, it was definitely one of those inspirational moments where it's like, we might be onto something here. And I hope even in the midst of crisis of a pandemic, we don't lose the beauty of what we're all learning.
Oh, wow. What a story. I couldn't be more proud of you, Steve.
He's got to be a listener, right? He's got to be a listener.
You know what? I'm gonna reach out to Owen and just be like, yo, what's up with Pops, man? How's he doing? So yeah, that's awesome, man. That's super cool. Thank you.
Justin, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, we'd love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. You can just find me there, Justin Harlan, Harlan. And you can follow me on other outlets, but I don't really get very work related on there. But hey, I welcome any invitation. Cool. And then if you've got any questions about Tulsa Remote, we'd love for you to go to our website. It's tulsaremote.com. Any questions about that can be sent into info at tulsaremote.com. And man, we're just thrilled to be a part of this work. And thank you all for having me and for leading the way for a long time as it relates to remote work and being such a critical part of this conversation worldwide.
Oh, awesome, man.
Did you hear that, Kaleem? We just got recognized.
Oh, a little recognition always feels good, baby.
Giggity. All right. That sounds great.
That's great, man. Well, Justin, really appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.